Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanaya. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjanaya. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astara Shishyamat, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astara Shishyamat, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Anandikoti Vaishnavrinda Ki. Naam Acharya Slaridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Navadvip Dham Ki. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from a book called the Transcendental Diary. So for those people who's coming for the first time, especially coming on a Saturday morning, this is what we normally read on a Saturday from a book about the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, Srila Prabhupada, his activities for that specific day. And today we are dealing with July 24th, 1976. And it's a courtesy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is from volume 3. And it's a courtesy, and we'll read a little bit and I'll explain a little bit. And if you have any questions, you can ask me as I'm going along. And if you feel that anything that you'd like to raise, please bring it up. Srila Prabhupada had a quiet day. He took a light massage and ate a little more than the last few days. He also replied to 1 or 2 pieces of mail. Giriraj Prabhu wrote from Bombay, informing Prabhupada of the latest developments. A life member from Pune, Mr. S.P. Malhotra, has offered 35 acres of farmable land along the 4-bedroom guest house in Mahabaleshwar, which Giriraj described as the most important hill station in Maharashtra and the Switzerland of Maharashtra. But when in India, you'd have to say it's like the Kashmir of Maharashtra. Giriraj suggested that it would be an ideal place for Srila Prabhupada to sit peacefully and translate books, and the devotees could farm it, and foreign devotees could use it as a place to recoup their health. He invited him to visit it when he arrives back in India and make a decision then whether to accept it or not. So this was quite a generous offering from Mr. Malhotra to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada stayed at this place, but I won't get into the descriptions of that, it'll take a little long. But Prabhupada stayed at that place, and he was meant to stay for a while, but he decided to leave the next morning for good reasons. Anyway, this offering, we can see this is like devotional service in action. You know, devotional service means activity. You have to do something. And Giriraj Prabhu at that time was a dedicated disciple, and he was reporting his activities and opportunities to his spiritual master. So this is one of the qualities of a disciple, that he reports to his spiritual master. It's not that it's out of ego he does that, because sometimes people are too humble and they don't want to say it. But Prabhupada was very happy to receive reports and opportunities to engage in devotional service. And then, Giriraj Maharaj, the way he wrote it, explaining the simplicity and the sustainability of the place, Mahabaleshwar, where the devotees can live with harmony in nature, they can restore their health, and his translation work can be done. So in this one little letter, he was able to encapsulate so many different themes. Because Prabhupada's translation work, he would translate the books from Sanskrit to English, and commenting on the purports was the core of his mission. That was the core part of his mission, his literary work, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we can also learn from it. So whenever you read about Prabhupada's activities, you see that he utilized everything for Krishna consciousness. Everything for Krishna and nothing for me. Everything for Krishna and nothing for me. So all the wealth and the resources should be utilized in Krishna's service. And we see that whatever gifts ISKCON was getting, Giriraj Prabhu was making that proposal to Prabhupada, or to take a decision whether we should accept or not. Generally, people like to give us property which they can't use, from my experience. I've seen that over the years. They want to give us something which they can't use. It's like called the demigod's boons. So yes, but we should give the best to Krishna. Like once somebody came with some tomatoes that were like smashed and they were giving it to us. I said, it's good you're giving us, at least you're learning to give. But the thing is, you have to give the best to Krishna. It's like when you love somebody, will you give him rotten tomatoes? No, I'm asking you. No. So yes, you have to give the best. And we can see, Srila Prabhupada, he used his discretion. I don't think so we took that property. Then Giriraj I'll read a little bit. Giriraj is also keen to start a Marathi version of the Bhagavad Darshan, our Indian equivalent of Back to Godhead magazine. He feels it is long overdue, and he suggested that local members could do the translation work, and Lokanath Swami could edit and approve it. Because Lokanath Swami comes from Maharashtra, he speaks Marathi. As well as this, he reported that another life member, Mr. G. D. Banani, wants to encourage the production of our Hindi publications. He may be inclined to contribute 100,000 rupees for Bhagavad Darshan, but he wants the phrase subsidized by the Binani Trust included in every issue of the magazine. Mr. Banani says that he wants our propaganda to increase, and that as we expand the circulation of Bhagavad Darshan, he will also give us more and more money. He said that people who donate 25,000 rupees can get their name permanently inscribed on a marble plaque in our temple, but that he was more inclined to give for the publication of our literatures. So it's quite interesting, that we want to reach the local people, and we want to reach them in their languages. Just like yesterday, I received some Portuguese books. Came from the BBT because I was sending some Portuguese books to Mozambique for the people in their local languages. So you're reaching people in their own languages, and Prabhupada appreciated that. And here the person wants to donate, but with some sort of, at least his name should be included that he donated it. We have many people, we have plaques sometimes around. We have one that's like by the pizza place when we open that second phase. And I was there when we were doing that opening. But the distribution of the books, shows the continuity and urgency of our mission. And Prabhupada, later we'll see that Prabhupada accepted that. He encouraged that. And sometimes, I was just recently dealing with a plaque matter in our society. It's not a week ago. Somebody was talking about a plaque. And I said, it's not a bad idea, if the person really helped and when you give him credit, it's okay. Because people want their legacy to go on. And yeah, you could see that, by translating the books, the local devotees will be involved in translating in their languages, Hindi and Marathi. So you're empowering the local people. So empowerment is an important, aspect of Krishna consciousness, where we empower people to do things that they have acumen for. And that's how Prabhupada worked. And, there's also the donor psychology and strategic engagement. We tell people we will put your name on the books and then we will distribute it. And they feel happy about it. Like somebody came some years back, came to they brought the grandchild and came, and they wanted to show a plaque that was put by the grandfather's name was there, just the name. So the person came and we took that plaque out because it, like over 3-4 decades, and it fell off. And the guy was not so happy. But then I took him to the book. I said, no, you should take a book and you should buy these books and we'll put your name in these books. It'll go to millions of people or thousands of people. He was very happy to do that. So we can we can engage people in different ways, and we see for preaching purposes and for the mission of Prabhupada. Yes, we sometimes do these things, and Prabhupada agreed to that we put his name in those books, and it'll go out, and books will go out everywhere, and people will remember Krishna. So, reading on, Giriraj also met with Mrs. Bila, the mother of Ashok, and he feels she may be inclined to help with the Gurukul project at Hare Krishna land. He also reported that we are working with lawyers to draft an appeal for tax exemption on the basis that we are a research organization, and the recommendations regarding ISKCON's present constitution will be present to Srila Prabhupada for approval when he arrives. So the devotee, Giriraj, who was involved at that time, was trying to get tax exemption. And this is one thing, although this is good, we get tax exemption, but we must never rob the state, because it's quite an offense. And people don't know that. It's actually worse than stealing from a Brahmana for government officials. You aware of that? It's worse. Because to take a property of a Brahmana, you may become a lizard in your next life. But to rob the state, it's worse. So yes, like I was also dealing with tax exemption recently with the Department of Social Development and all, but we have challenges there. But we also be truthful in what we do, especially when it comes to taxation. Okay. Prabhupada liked the prospect of the hill station. This news of the donation from Mr. Malhotra is very good. Take the land and utilize it. Many good guests will come to such place, and I will also come. Estimate the cost, and we shall do it immediately. I will come and see the land upon arriving in Bombay. He was also enthusiastic about the Marathi Bhagavad Darshan, and especially the offer made by Mr. Banani. So we encourage people to give in different ways, and sometimes when people see us, they try to avoid us also, because they know, like a person like me coming, what I'm going to give them? I'm only going to take something from them, But we give them Krishna. They don't know that. We're giving them Krishna. It's like, I was trying to get hold of a businessman recently, but he just couldn't get hold of him. Somehow he would hide away. So I went to his business, and I told a receptionist, I came to buy the business. Could call your boss, I'm interested. So the person somehow by Krishna's arrangement, he saw me, he just couldn't escape me. So he had to come. So yes, we use different tactics to attract people, And people like to avoid devotees. They shouldn't. They should take the association of devotees. Like when we used to do street distribution, myself and Jai Sachinanda, we'd be in the streets every Saturday morning. And we'd be selling books, We'd show them books. And the people are thinking we're trying to get them money, but it's not that. We're trying to give them Krishna. And then one person said, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. So I told him, no, I got it here, it's here. I go have that book. Because coming back, we have one of the books is called Coming Back. We have that book. We would like to, I got the book. So, in so many different ways, we would preach to people. And we have to look at new, innovative ways how to give people Krishna, although they don't want it. We're giving Krishna consciousness. Although they don't want it, we still want to give them. Then Niranjan Das has given Prabhupada his Hindi translation of the Nectar of Devotion, and Prabhupada told Giriraj that he was sending it to him by separate registered post for printing, thus expanding the functions of the temple there. Our Bombay Center is a general cultural institution for the education of scientific knowledge and spiritual life, he told him. Describing Ashok Birla's mother as a good lady, he asked Giriraj to extend his blessings to her. So these Birla family are probably the richest, now maybe somebody now, Ambanis and things like that, but Birla family were the richest at that time in India. They were the richest family, the Birla family. But still they have challenges. Finally, regarding the research tax exemption, he said, we have got so many PhDs also and are starting the Bhaktivedanta Institute for making research work for the improvement of the economic condition of the world. We are introducing many farms and they're very successful. We want to introduce this in India also. So we have an institute that just deals with scientific matters, which is called the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And there's a devotee called Rasaraj. He was heading it at that time. I mean, he came to South Africa, and we had conferences around South Africa in University of Durban, Westville, where Prabhupada went, and also DUT and ML. It was the old ML Sultan Technical College at that time. And Rasaraj was presenting this Krishna consciousness in a very scientific way. Only scientists could really figure out. We were sitting there and we were just kind of somewhat bewildered at times. But he was very, very good. And I remember in University of Durban, Westville, one person was walking up and down, one scientist was walking up and down, fired up, to express his point. And the chairperson was Ishwara Puri's father there, was chairing it, Ved Prakash Sujatan. He was a professor and he proved Einstein theory wrong also, which is accepted to a large extent, but because of apartheid times, it was not published and not known. Yes, so we also have that wing, the science wing. Then he replied to Pushta Krishna Swami's mail. The other letter he replied was the one from Pushta Krishna Swami that I read out to him. This is Hari Suri speaking. On the plane from New York. It was I spoke about it the last time. It was quite a moving letter. It was really sad, and Prabhupada commented that he was not sincere at that time. Without commenting specifically on difficulties, Pushta was obviously suffering from the contents of his letter. Srila Prabhupada offered him encouragement and hope. I am very pleased that you are preaching, for preaching is our main line. Hari Kesh Swami was also doing preaching work, and now you are also. Preaching is the most important business. And to preach, you must hear. If you're not hearing, you're just doing deity service and you're not hearing, you'll not know this philosophy. And you'll not be able to give it to others. So preaching is very important. Because he said, I want every one of my men and women, to become first-class preachers. So we have to preach. And Prabhupada was very happy to preach. And also he wanted his disciples to preach. And when one of his disciples, Kaushalya, when she was in Surat, and Surat is a town that Prabhupada had the best reception probably in the entire planet. The devotees were put garlands and hundreds of garlands and flower petals and huge sankirtan. They were throwing rice out of the windows and so many different things. They were receiving the devotees. And it was magical. But Prabhupada knew that his disciple Kaushalya, she had memorized the Shisha Upanishad. And Prabhupada told her to sing it. And she was only 18 years old. Now don't take this otherwise, but I'll just read the 3 lines, the way he reciprocated to that. As a sannyasi, but he treated her, Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. So he treated her as his daughter. Remember that. So he was very happy that she was reciting it. So after she finished, she called him over and put her head on his lap. And he patted her back. And he rubbed her head. It's amazing. Because he just reciprocated like a father. Because he was a married person. And he reciprocated with her like that. She was like his daughter. So yes, so Prabhupada became very, very pleased. It's not here, it was in some other memories that I heard that from Kaushalya Mataji, that the way Prabhupada had reciprocated with that. And therefore, we really appreciate Prabhupada, the way he reciprocated it with different people. So then there was a booking made for Prabhupada, flight from Bombay, flight to Bombay, through Europe. So Prabhupada is now traveling, but is shocked to see that one of his tooth was missing. Harisuri Prabhu writes in his diary, but he never complained about it. Like one of our tooth will be missing, there's a tendency we may complain about it, and maybe our whole focus is on the tooth, but he never complained. And he said, "My teeth are all rotten and want to fall out, but account of this toothpaste, they are forced to remain." It's a nice way of putting it. On account of the toothpaste, Yeah. Reminds me of they were having a big meeting, because the toothpaste company in India, where the sales were going down, and they were thinking how they're going to increase the sales. So they had this, we have these big meetings with nice arrangements and big meeting. So I think one of their local workers or something, a cleaner or something, he said, "What you're having this meeting where you can, this is about sales, increase the toothpaste. Here you can just make the nozzle bigger. You'll increase the sale." And they did that. So, therefore, you have to ask, like sometimes local people, simple people, the information may come out from them. So everybody can contribute, yeah. So in the early evening, Prabhupada gave darshan to a large sitting room. In the early evening, Prabhupada gave a general darshan in the large sitting room because so many devotees have not been able to see him. Jayatatta Prabhu especially wanted the new devotees to have the chance to meet him. The most actively devoted members of the Indian community also came. So Indian people come, then there's also some complaints they'll come with. So in the course of discussion, one Indian man was complaining that in the last Janmashtami, he had to purchase prasadam from the food stall on the grounds. Because he was saying that it should be given freely because of the mercy of God. Because that's a tradition, like people, there's a lot of rich people from Delhi, they travel to Vrindavan. But they're very wealthy, but they'll be waiting for one flower from the altar. Because they know it's different. They know it's offered to Krishna, They'll wait, they can push you for it. Sometimes the pujari is putting the garland on me and they're looking at me, so I have to take the garland and put it on them. Yeah. Then Prabhupada, he countered that, saying that the real position is that you should be giving to this movement. Because you are not giving, that's why we are charging. Because you're supposed to be giving. So if you don't charge, how will you give? Because you don't want to give. And that reminds me of last night I was looking for this article by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when I read this. In 1933, and I want to read this, for a time in 1933, several from the congregation were coming daily to take Mahaprasad. Mahaprasad means prasadam. Everything in India is called Mahaprasad. It's not just only offered to the deities. So, at Sri Purushottam Math, some Mathvasis felt that only those lay devotees who perform sufficient service should regularly be given the full meals of prasad. Get it? The regular people who live in the temple should be given. And other inmates felt that anyone should be allowed to take prasad, Mahaprasad, without restriction. So there was a kind of like, split decision here to take, but then the objectors brought the matter to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati attention by citing the case of Manik. So Manik was one devotee there, an initiated householder who regularly came for Mahaprasad. You know what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati commented? That Manik primarily viewed Mahaprasad as free food rather than Krishna's mercy. Got it? He told Manik, don't come here just to eat. At least do some service if you are going to take Mahaprasad every day at the mat. So it's very important. I found this last night in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's biography. So Prabhupada's health was increasing, and his health was gradually improving, and the cold was getting down, and he was recovering. And then we move on to July 25th, 1976. Today was Sunday, and Prabhupada decided to go ahead with plans to visit the temple in London. Although he was still very weak and his respiratory tracts are thick with mucus, he went just to have darshan of Sri Radha London Ishvara. They were the first large deities installed in the West, and he had special affection for them. Like, you get attached to the deities. Like once we were in one house and we said, which is the second best deities in the world? Raghunath. This devotee got very upset. Isn't it? You were there? In Rasarani's house? She was very upset. She said, no. So anyway, she was very upset because we told her second best. So before we left, the devotees came in with the Observer, which carried a 4-column article by Colin Cross on his meeting with Srila Prabhupada. Actually, it contained very little of Prabhupada's own words. Sometimes when Prabhupada would speak to reporters, they would, put their own ideas and impressions they have. It was mainly that person's impressions. And then he described his interview as an unnerving experience, and his meeting with several shaven-haired devotees as oddly disquieting. But it was generally favorable. And it at least contained the whole Maha Mantra. So in this article, it was okay because at least the Maha Mantra was mentioned. So somebody will get the mantra. Although it was a poor article. And reporters, they were like, because these shaven-head people, actually now they're quite used to us, but it's nice to be shaven-head like this, isn't it? Is it okay? Yeah, it's good. And then there's one devotee called Yogeshwara in Geneva. There was a famous Mayavadi Sanskrit scholar. He came to see Prabhupada. And he'd written a book about Krishna, but the philosophy was a little mixed, He was like, he didn't understand the philosophy. He said that the dust raised by the hooves of the cows refers to this, and the gopis are symbolic of that. Srila Prabhupada said, I've been looking at your book. And the man said, it took me 12 years to write the book. Prabhupada, yes, and there are still mistakes in it. Too much mistakes, it's still so then he was, anyway, and then, Prabhupada was pointing to his disciples, the bright looking, they shaven heads, and they're very happy, engaged in devotional service. And this Sanskrit scholar, he said, I cannot give up these things if I wanted to. You could give it up, but he didn't want to give it up. And this is like drinking, smoking, and engaging in all this sinful life. He didn't want to give it up. So later the devotees were asking Prabhupada, when Prabhupada said, if you don't want to give this up, yes, therefore you have many, many births to go on the spiritual path. The scholar said, it's time for me to leave now. But before he left, Srila Prabhupada presented him the nectar of devotion and said, I request you to look through this book. I think you'll find it of great interest. And then later, when the devotees were asking Prabhupada about the Sanskrit scholar, Prabhupada was appreciative of him. Although he was full of mistakes and, he was somewhat appreciative. He said he is a good person, but just through bad association, he became a Mayavadi. Because Prabhupada was very compassionate. And, and he mentioned, because he mentioned Krishna many times in his book. He mentioned at least the Mahamantra. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would judge a good article on the basis of how many times the name of Krishna was mentioned in the article. That was his way of editing. And he looked at the article. So yes. So then, moving on the way to London, Harisuri now, he was thinking of that discussion about which deities are better, trying to find out which Prabhupada had preference for deities. And then say, on the way into London, I was thinking of the conversation with Kulashekar Das in New Vrindavan and Srila Prabhupada's unwillingness to declare Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra as more attractive than Sri Sri Radha London Ishvara. I asked Prabhupada if these were indeed his favorite deities. He confirmed they were. Because he just like reciprocates with the person. But Krishna is beautiful everywhere. Just that you may get attached to him in a particular way. But, to him, Krishna was beautiful everywhere. And it's not that this one is better than the other one, like that. So then we move on to Seven Berry Place. This is a place where the devotees acquired in London. Sri Sri Radha London Ishvara's home is a small terraced house near the British Museum. There are 5 floors with a series of small rooms of a step and a narrow wooden staircase connecting top to bottom. The temple room can barely hold 30 people with a low ceiling and narrow walls. Prabhupada commented that the building is worthless, but the location is very important. Therefore, there has been a tremendous push by the neighbors to have the temple closed down. But somehow or the other, the devotees have managed to keep ahead of the city authorities and stay open. He was pleased to see how well the devotees were looking after the deities. After offering dandavas and taking a little chanamrita, he sat on his vyasasana in front of the lordships and gave a talk encouraging the devotees to continue without being disturbed. And then Prabhupada started speaking about Prahlad Maharaj, the amount of problems he went through. Then he spoke about Haridas Thakur. He was, born in a Muslim family and the difficulties he went through. But Prabhupada said you should follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because in this world you'll always have some obstruction. You have to become tolerant. Last night I was in an interview with some devotees from India, and a long discussion on challenges and how to look at things. It took like almost a few hours. It was almost midnight there in India, but they were still asking, so many different things. questions, but I was sticking to this point of becoming tolerant. And to become tolerant is not an easy thing. But it all stems from, like lust and envy. But if you want to overcome, and Prabhupada was saying, this Maya's kingdom is very dangerous because there's test always there. Somebody is bound to tell you certain things that you may not like. This is the material world, and to combat Maya's party is very difficult unless you surrender to Krishna. When you surrender to Krishna, you become tolerant, and then you can do it. But listen to this. Describing the material world as a very dangerous place, he advised the devotees to remain sober, and they should stick to the spiritual principles. 1, read his books and avoid being discouraged. So you have to encourage people to take to Krishna consciousness, and they should always be encouraged, but they should become tolerant to this world. Because when people say you things that you don't like, what can you do about it? It's already in their consciousness. You can't change their perceptions. It'll take millions of lifetimes to get that out. If somebody have a perception of you, you really can't do anything about it. Is that not true? It's true. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to get this impression. So, all the times you're going to be faced with difficulty. The way to look at it, he said, it is my good fortune that Krishna has given me some difficulty to counteract my previous bad action. So that's a good way of looking at it. But when some difficulties come, we don't really think like that. Because then he quoted a verse from the Bhagavatam stating that Tatu anukampam shamikshamana. The translation is that you just have to stay alive because you'll be going through so many challenges to enter the kingdom of God. Just like a son has to just stay alive to inherit the property of the father. But then there's such a fight after that. When somebody have inheritance, you know what it becomes? It becomes a whole battle. But Prabhupada was encouraging and talking about the difficulties, the challenges one would go through, but you must get the mercy. And that mercy comes from Krishna. You have to work for it, you have to endeavor for it, but you will get it. And sometimes the Lord allowed this suffering. And in the end we suffer. We've been going to hospitals. Nikunja and I have been going to some visiting people just about to leave the bodies. And the last experience was so amazing for us with the passing away of Mother Radha Kund, who really was, in the end, was thinking of Radharani. So yes, we may go through some challenges. Because the sincere devotee sees all these difficulties as Krishna's personal involvement. He's like caring for you. And the suffering takes you closer to Krishna, so you become eligible to enter the kingdom of God. Sometimes people say, oh, you all are devotees, but why are you all suffering so much? Like, this material world is full of suffering. Everybody is in the prison house. Everybody is suffering. It's not that when you become a devotee, you won't go through some challenges. Then there's another discussion that Prabhupada was having. We'll go to that, but we don't have much time. Does anybody have any questions so far? They would like to ask anything? Keshava, you'd like to say something? Yeah, so then there's another, quite a bit here, but we may not have time to do everything. Okay, but then the parents of Harisori comes to visit him. So he had left home very early when he was very young, and he joined the movement. But he was a very temperamental person, and he had a chip on his shoulder, as his mother said. But when they saw him, with the devotees, he was a changed person. He was completely changed. And his father and mother came, and then at that time Prabhupada had arrived, because he really wanted his parents to meet Prabhupada. But anyway, Prabhupada had arrived, and they were chanting and a lot of shuffling going on. It came in probably a limousine, and they were quite amazed, and they got a glimpse of Prabhupada. But he wanted them to talk to Prabhupada. He wanted his parents to speak to Prabhupada and get his mercy. But Prabhupada was was ill, and he couldn't. He didn't want to take his parents and bother Prabhupada. But then later he was reporting to Srila Prabhupada that yes, my parents came. And you know what Prabhupada asked him? He was very happy. He said, did they get some prasadam? He said, no, there was no prasadam, Prabhupada. So he was not happy with that, because they should get something, some little prasad. And Prabhupada was disappointed. He said, well, what is the use of inviting them? And another instance, there was another devotee, in another pastime, Gauridas Pandit was, Prabhupada was on his coffee table, he was sitting and giving darshan, and people were walking in and out and coming in, getting his darshan and going. And Prabhupada noticed one person didn't get the prasadam. And then Prabhupada, said that the way he said that the boy is somewhat like, the way he said it, I don't want to say the wrong thing. He said, Prabhupada asked me, did you give him prasadam? I said, no, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said that boy is incompetent. So he was incompetent. But so therefore Prabhupada was in anxiety, he always wanted people to get some prasadam. In 2002, I heard this from Moksha Lakshmi, another disciple of Prabhupada, who one time prepared on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day 108 preparations. So one of the devotees suggested that, which was Hamsadutta, told, we should take it and take it to Prabhupada and show it to Prabhupada. So they put all on the lids and they went and took it to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada looked at it and he said, this movement is nothing without its feast. It's nothing. I remember very clearly she said that. I was there in 2002 where they're having this discussion on Srila Prabhupada. But it's, prasadam is such an amazing thing, aspect of Krishna consciousness, that when you eat it, you can be intoxicated, and you can be in ecstasy just by taking prasadam. And there was one instance where in one of the South American temples, Srila Prabhupada cooked a pot of khichdi. And people may not be into much, khichdi is very good. And he said that khichdi was his spiritual master's favorite dish. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's favorite dish is khichdi. And Prabhupada used this urad dal and had a very creamy consistency. So then there were about 35 of them, 35 of us in that celebration. There were many other dishes besides khichdi. And everybody started honoring the khichdi. But there was complete silence. There was complete silence. As soon as it touched their tongues, they fell silent. That's the effect it had. That's the effect of prasad. That's why, if you come from a Hindu background, an Indian background, from childhood you have this experience. It's a little different. And when you take that bite, it made them silent. They were dead silent. And they ate every grain until it was all gone. They like kind of, like we were young, we should also suck the plate, we should, so they went to the pot, it was all wiped out. So they all were in silence, they were thinking, there was something about this prasadam, and it was charged with something that must have gave them that gopi bhav. There was ecstasy involved in prasadam. So when one takes prasadam, that can have an amazing effect on their consciousness. And you can experience that ecstasy. They had this chance to experience that with Srila Prabhupada. And the way it was concluded, he said, we realize that Prabhupada has given us an extra special benediction. He allowed us to open the door a little and peek into what the spiritual world was like. So just by taking prasadam, one can get that peek of the spiritual realm. So then we have 7 minutes. It's 8:26, but you announced 7:30, so we started at 7:35. Yeah. So then the Prabhupada was giving some darshan in a lawn, meeting people. So sitting on the Vyasasana on the edge of the lawn, he first had one of the devotees speak in Hindi. Then he delivered his speech based on the verse, beginning Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. He said the purpose of Lord Chaitanya's movement was to establish as many Radha Krishna temples as possible. The beginning was in Vrindavan with the Madan Mohan temple. Now he said there are 3 Radha Krishna temples here in England, and everyone should take full advantage of them. He pointed out that it was not just Hindus or Indians who were coming. Anyone could come, and they should be judged according to their devotion to Krishna, not by any other criteria. It's how much devotion a person have. And it reminds me that, once there was one of Prabhupada's disciples, Nanda Kumar, and he said that, he went to a temple, and the pujari, his teeth was broken, like one of his teeth was broken, he was unclean, and he was doing the arati very fast, and the altar was unkept. It was very dirty. And then after the offering, he just threw the water on the devotees. Then as they were leaving, Nanda Kumar said, Prabhupada, I have a question about this temple. He said, ask me later. So later came Prabhupada, what's your question? He said, you taught us cleanliness and in deity worship, but where we went, it was very unclean. I was wondering if Krishna is really there. He said, yes, Krishna is there. Our standard is cleanliness. We keep that standard. Don't judge anyone else by what they do. And Prabhupada said, I saw that pujari. He was different, but his heart was for Krishna. And therefore, that's what we see. Several times, he either said to me, or I heard him say, all the rules and regulations are meant for us to apply to ourselves. We are not to judge anybody else. Got it? So sometimes you go to India, you go to these temples, we become too judgmental about what's going on and the way they do things. But don't do that following Prabhupada. There's a lot more to say, but I just want to come to the conclusion of it. So as the evening chill set in, he brought the session to a close, retiring to his room. He called Harikesh and Jaitirtha, and after half hour of hearing various arguments in favor of continuing with the European tour, he decided that he wanted to return to Bombay straight away. So this is the Transcendental Diary. This is what we meant to do today. Does anybody have any questions or comments they would like to make about Srila Prabhupada? Bhatta, Pavan want to say something today. Okay. Anybody want to add anything or reflections on Srila Prabhupada? Srila Prabhupada is a very interesting personality. I still have a few minutes. A very interesting personality. There's a lot of information of his, his activities are given in books, and we should take advantage of it more and more. See, there's a lot to learn. Just like, when the altar opens and if I'm speaking, which is higher, I'm speaking or you bowing down? Huh? Which is higher? Huh? Listening to the speaker, which do you think? But just think about it. These are things, you have to know higher principles and lower principles. This is not written in the books. You only can learn it from the Acharya. This is enshrined in the hearts of the pure devotees. So it's very important to hear this philosophy, And people came in contact with Srila Prabhupada, and in different ways, some people had fallen. Like once I was walking down City Hall, and one person was like crawling, and then he saw me, you can hear me chanting Hare Krishna, and I'm walking past. And then he started reciting all the praise about Prabhupada, about the songs. And he said, no, I know, but I'm suffering now. I'm in this. But still, he appreciated Prabhupada, and he was around the City Hall area. City Hall area. So, we have to give, Krishna consciousness to others. In different ways we package it, through prasadam, through going to universities, preaching, different methods of preaching, in innovative ways. Think about how you can give Krishna to somebody. Think about it. Because if you keep it to yourself, you lose it. But when you give it, you'll get more. See? See, when you have knowledge, you're meant to give this knowledge. Sometimes we tell devotees to speak, they'll say, no, I don't want to speak. But if you give it, you'll get more. Like sometimes we ask them to sing also in the morning. My throat, Isn't it? So, but we should do it. Because Prabhupada will be pleased with our effort. We don't have to be good singers. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, you know how he chose singers? People who can't sing must sing. Get it? Because people who can sing, who are they singing for? Whose pleasure? Huh? For themselves. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said it will attract the opposite sex. Got it, Jenny? That's why you don't sing so much. Huh? Jenny is a wonderful girl. You know from like, yeah. So singing, yes, singing. So Bhakti said, you have to learn this from the books of the acharyas on how they did things, because a lot of things might not known to people. They don't know what the higher principles are, the lower principles. So take it more seriously. We will stop here, and we'll adjourn for the getting into Gopi Bhav now downstairs. Getting into Prasadam. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.